1 years later, it was after Tokyo later, many very boring hours later, after the notes were writing by Sprunki. The next scene, so 40 give 36 magnolia crazy hours, 100,000 years, days 7,067,30,000, how many chili shows, many unbearable weakness, like no excitement, it's points in 77 trillion fireworks for present year. 35 hours nap later, 67 bats later, many one nap month later, 1 nest later, thanks Joyce, thanks, the 12 to 20 hours later, 6 days, hour 1 to 2 hours, 3 hour, 4 hour, 5 hour, 6 hour, 7 hour, 8 hour, 9 hour, 10 hour, 11 hour, 12.
Mateo está en su oficina.
Well, I would say that for
Many hours later, 2,000 minutes later. See next wife, people drive later, one last or later, 12,000 minutes later, a lot of etch kitty later, 83 days later, 39 minutes after. The next pilots, many cryings later, many inches later, 10 minutes later, 1 week later, 8 seconds later, 80 hours later, 13 months later, 612 hours later, 852 seconds later, 380 minutes later, 12 months later, so many credit siren alarms later, a lot of wheels later, several minutes later, more minutes later, minute ago, 90 months later, 19 minutes later, 6 hours later, 5 hours later, 5 weeks later.
4, 3,
The next that's morning later, 1 hour later, month 1 month, 2 month, 3 month, 4 month, 5 month, 6 month, 7 month, 8 month, 9 month, 10 month, 11 month, 12 month, 13 month, 14 month, 15 month, 16 month, 17 month, 18 month, 19 month, 20 month, 30 month, 40 month, 50. See next quips, later that night, 46 hours later. A month 60 month 70, the age 9 to 14 decades later, a few hours later, the next after, 16 hours later, 9 to 3 seconds later, 4 hours later, see next day, 91 more seconds later, several seconds later, a few inches later, 1,234,567,890 hours later, soon after. Weeks later, the next minute, 123 seconds later, 3 seconds later, 6:52, 20 nexts later, a few minutes later, 10 inches later, a few moments later, 2 hours later, many attempts to fix the gifts later, 78 minutes later, holidays later, 30 hours later, 1 second later, 6 seconds later, hours later, the next quay, many hours later, 60 seconds later, a few inches later, 67 hours later, too many 200 later, 5 hours later, days later, 2 days later, 24 hours later,